Hey there, welcome to another episode of Legends with Elroy. Today I'm excited to tell you another story about Billy Bob the Nut. Now this one starts as Billy Bob was taking a little bath. Splish splash, I was taking a bath all about a Saturday night. A rubber dubber just relaxing in the tub. Someone's at the door. So Billy Bob made his way over to the door. And he opened it, and there before him were his friends, Stanley the Skunk and Porky. Now Porky was not a pig, he was a porcupine. A lot of people get confused and they say, oh, he must have been a pig. But no, he was a porcupine. And Porky said, Billy Bob, we need your help. Billy Bob said, well, whatever is the matter? I was just having my morning bath, and ooh, the bubbles are nice. And Porky said, ooh, bubbles, I love bubble baths. They're really nice. But unfortunately, I can't talk about bubble baths right now. You see, Billy Bob, stuff has been going missing in my house. You see, I am a simple porcupine. I like to go on walks. I like to sit in hammocks and let the breeze blow me back and forth. I like to eat walnuts. They're very good. I like to go out and sometimes ski, sometimes climb trees, even swim a bit. But I love reading and eating tea, well, drinking tea, and eating sweet treats like biscuits or scones or croissants or really anything with chocolate. But you see, Billy Bob, just yesterday I was getting ready to have some tea and some wonderful treats, and I put my tea out and I put my treats out and I went to get my book, and when I came back, the treats were gone. Even the tea had been consumed. It was sad. I mean, I really like tea too. But you wouldn't think someone would take the tea, although they did leave the teapot, which was at least nice, but it was all drained, and there were just crumbs in the places where the biscuits had been. Well, I was very unhappy about it, so I walked outside, and I followed these little crumbs all the way to a large clearing. But I got too scared when I got to the clearing because there was this house, and there was a strange smell, and there were all these like smoke and everything rising from the house, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. I need Billy Bob. So I came to you. Well, first I went to Stanley, and thankfully he had some biscuits, which were great. I was like, but beside the point. Billy Bob said, well, this is an odd story, and it is very disconcerting, so let's go see who's been taking the food. So they went off on their way. After a while, they arrived in the clearing, and Porky was right. You see, there was this house in the middle of the clearing. Now, it was not a big house, it was almost like a hut. It was made of brick, and it had like a straw roof. Well, maybe it was actually wood shingles. But anyways, and there were a couple trees around it, but for the most part, it was very clear. But what was odd was the large amount of smoke coming from the chimney. There must be a bonfire in there, Billy Bob said. And Porky was like, oh, bonfires? Well, sometimes you can make s'mores on bonfires. That sounds good. Billy Bob said, you're right. But it could be something pretty nasty in there. And Porky was like, oh, that doesn't sound good. And Stanley was like, let's get in there and see. So the three of them made their way up. Billy Bob in front, Stanley behind, and Porky, I don't know exactly where Porky was. I think he was up in a tree watching from far away. He was doing this with his hands. And Billy Bob was like, Porky, where are you? And he heard off in the distance, oh, don't worry about it, Billy Bob. I'm back here. I wonder if there are any snacks in there. So Billy Bob opened the door. Now, I have to say, he should have knocked. But then again, he didn't know if there was a mean person in there that was gonna try to fight him. But I digress. Now, before him stood an odd creature. It was standing on top of a stool. Didn't seem like a big creature, but it had a cloak, so it's hard to tell. Now, it was hunched over, and out of the cloak, he could see that it had grayish fur in the back, and it had some white on the sides, and it was kind of all frizzy up top, all crazy like. Billy Bob said, "Hey there, what are you doing in here?" And the creature, excuse me, flipped around. It's like, "Who are you?" Now, when the creature flipped around, the cloak fell off, and it was revealed that it was a small creature. I believe they're called koala bears. And it had just a black nose and a gray body, and it had the little white frizziness around the face, and it said, "Who are you?" And Billy Bob said, "My name is Billy Bob the Nut." And the koala said, aren't you the guy who helps sell Barry's bone broth sometimes?" Billy Bob was like, "Yes, I'm also a knight that fights people, like bad guys and stuff." And the koala was like, "You really do a good job with the bone broth." Billy Bob was like, "Yeah, I'm a knight though." You never know what people are gonna remember you from. But anyways, it was a good memory because, you see, this koala happened to love the bone broth, so it was okay. And the koala said, "Well, now that I know your name, my name is Kenny. Kenny the koala." Billy Bob said, "A koala? I've never met a koala." And Kenny said, "Well, I've never met a knight, so I guess that we're on the same page today." Billy Bob said, "Now, Kenny, you see, I have a friend. His name is Porky. And he had some food go disappearing recently. You wouldn't happen to know what all that is about?" And Kenny said, "Oh, well, I guess I may as well just fess up. I took the food. You see, I've always had a sweet tooth. And, well, even though I've always had a sweet tooth, sometimes I'm not the best at going up and asking people to be friends. And because of that, I decided that I would just go take the food. I guess I probably could have just talked to your friend and asked him for a little morsel for a hungry little koala." And Billy Bob said, "I'm sure you could have. But how did you get inside?" And right about that time, he heard, "Yeah, how did you get into my house?" It was Porky. He had gotten his courage back. He was in the room. He was holding a branch. I think it was poison ivy. Right when Porky realized it was poison ivy, he was like, oh no. Anyways, so Kenny said, "Well, you see this big cauldron that is in front of me? Well, I have been making a little bit of a concoction." And right at this point, Billy Bob realized again just how frizzy his hair was, and it was all white. He kind of looked like a scientist. And he said, "You see, Billy Bob, I figured that if I was gonna go get the food, the best thing for me to do would be unseen. So, after quite a few days' work, I came up with this invisibility potion." And Billy Bob was like, "Invisibility? How does that even work?" And Porky was like, "Oh, sorry." It was such a trance. And Billy Bob said, "Okay, well, it works then?" And Kenny said, "Yes, it does. Watch this." And he just took a little sip, and all of a sudden, they were like, "Where's Kenny?" And it was like, Billy Bob felt a tap on his head, and Suddenly, Porky felt a biscuit in his hands. He was like, oh, this thing's awesome. People disappear and biscuits reappear. Oh, I love this. And Billy Bob said, that's pretty cool. So then, Kenny washed himself off, and all of a sudden, he was back to normal. Billy Bob said, well, Kenny, why don't you stop stealing all the food from my friend Porky? And I'm sure that if you're willing to be buddies with him, he'll share with you. And Kenny said, you know what, Porky, I'm really sorry about that. I have to say, you make some really good biscuits. Do you mind if I come on over every once in a while? Maybe we can have like a book club. We could read different books together, and we can talk about the different things that are happening in the stories. Billy Bob was like, that sounds like a great idea. What do you think, Porky? Porky said, I think it sounds great. Although I kind of might try going invisible at some point if that's okay. Can I have a sip? So Porky took a sip and he disappeared. And then he started panicking. It's like, I can't see my hands. Oh no, where are my feet? Oh, this is horrible. I don't like this. Ooh, there's another biscuit over here. This is so good. But anyways, so it all turned out that it wasn't anything that bad going on, and that they all were good friends after that. So Kenny stayed at his house, and he made sure that over the next weeks, he and, of course, Stanley and Porky would have tea together. Every once in a while, Billy Bob joined. So Kenny stayed home, and the others all went their separate ways. Billy Bob got ready for bed. What was that? But that, my friends, is a story for another day. Well, I'll see you guys in the next episode of Legends with Elroy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.